potatoes on the plate. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God and Narayan, unto the supremest human being, Narayan Rishi, and unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. So I try to switch from reading to remembering, because I can remember or read it either way, but when I switched, I mixed up. Shringatam Swakata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtanaha, Vidyantasto Yabhadrani, Edunoti Suhritsatam, Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma Super Soul, everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee cleanses desire for material enjoyment in the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nastapaishu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Nashtaki Regular attendance and classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, Scheduled Incarnations, and the verse is 14. And I guess it's not on the board, so I just have to repeat it after me, and we just be satisfied with that. Try. Ishtaparu. How many people? You're the only one. Anybody else have it up on their computer? You're the only one, Dan.
I'm in a bar.
I can read it.
Oh, okay. Okay, then we'll do like usual.
14, right?
Yeah. Okay, we're on the third word. Baya. Sa. Singha. Rupam. Try Pishta Porubayaha Sandishingha Rupan.
Try Krishna Parobayaha Sandishingha Rupam.
Kritva. Brahmad. Rukuti. Damstra. Karala. Patram. Kritva Brahmad Rukuti Damstra Karala Vaktram.
Ruti Damstra Karala Vaktram.
Daitendram. Ashu. Gadayapi Patantam. Arad. Daitendram Ashu Gadaya Bipantam Arad. Uro. Nipatya. Vidadara. Nakai. Spurantam. Uro Nipatya Vidadara Nikai Spurantam. Tripista Purubaya Hasan Singha Rupam. Kridva Brahmad Brukuti Damstra Karala Vaktram. Daitendram Ashu Gadaya Vipantam Arad. Uro Nipatya Vidadara Nakai Spurantam. Tripishta Porubaya Hasan Singha Rupam. Kridva Brahmad Brukuti Damstra Karala Vaktram. Daitendram Ashu Gadaya Vipantantamura Arad. Uro Nipatya Vidadara Nakai Spurantam. I hope that was 3. Is that 3? Please chant. Anybody wants to?
Tripistopuru Vayaha Sadhu Singarupam. Kripa Brahmad Brukuti Damsra Karala Vaktram. Daitendram Ashu Katayati Patantam Arad Uro Prupya Vidata Nakai Spurantam
Okay, I'll give it a shot.
Hold on. There you go.
Tripishta Purubayaha Sanishingurupam Shingarupam Kritva Brahman Buruti Damstra Kalala Vaktram Kritva Brahman Brukuti Damstra Kanta Vaktram Daichendram Ashau Gadaya Vipatantam Aruprad. Sorry, I left that. Su Gadaya Vipatantam Arad Arunipacha Vidadara Naktai Spurantam Arunipacha Vidadara Naktai Spurantam. Garupam
Ritva Sahirajmad Brukuti Damasra Karala Bhaktram
Kritva Brahma Brukuti Damsra Kala Bhaktram
Daitendram Asukadya Vipatam Tam Arad
Daitendram Asau Gadaya Vipantam Tam Arad
Nipatya Vedadara Nakai Spurantam
Urao Vipacha Vididaya Nakai Spurantam.
That's a tough one, eh?
Tongue Twister.
Everybody ready to move on? Okay. Word meanings. Tripishtapa,
Tripishta
the demigods.
Demigods
Urubayaha,
Urubayaha
one who vanquishes great fears. Saha, he, the personality of Godhead.
Personality Godhead
Nrsimha Rupam,
Singapam
assuming the incarnation Nrsimha.
Assuming the incarnation of Shimba
Kritva,
Ritva
doing so. Ramat,
Brahma
by rolling.
Barolo
Brukuti,
Rukuti
eyebrows.
Eyebrows
Damstra,
Damstra
teeth.
Teeth
Karala,
Karama
greatly fearful.
Greatly fearful
Vaktram,
Bhaktram
mouth. Daitya Indram,
Aita Indram
the king of the demons.
the king of the demons
Ashu,
Asu
immediately.
immediately
Gadaya,
Gadaya
with club in hand.
with club in hand
Apipatantam,
Bhagavatam
while falling down.
falling down
Arat,
Arat
nearby.
nearby
Uro,
Uro
on the thighs. Nipatya,
Vipata
placing on.
no
Vidadara,
Vididara
pierced. Nakai, by the nails. Spurantam,
Bhagavatam
while challenging. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The personality of Godhead assumed the incarnation of Nrsimhadev in order to vanquish the great fears of the demigods. He killed the king of the demons, Hiranyakashipu, who challenged the Lord with a club in his hand, by placing the demon on his thighs and piercing him with his nails, rolling his eyebrows in anger and showing his fearful teeth and mouth. Please repeat. The personality of Godhead assumed the incarnation of Nrsimhadev in order to vanquish the great fears of the demigods. He killed the king of the demons, Hiranyakashipu,
Hiranyakashipu,
who challenged the Lord with a club in his hand,
who challenged the Lord with club in his hands,
by placing the demon on his thighs,
by placing the demon on his thighs,
and piercing him with his nails,
and piercing him with his nails,
rolling his eyebrows in anger,
rolling his eyebrows in anger,
and showing his fearful teeth and mouth.
and showing his fearful teeth and mouth.
The purport. The history of Hiranyakashipu and his great devotee son Prahlad Maharaj is narrated in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Hiranyakashipu became very powerful by material achievements and thought himself to be immortal by the grace of Brahmaji. Brahmaji declined to award him the benediction of immortality because he himself is not an immortal being. But Hiranyakashipu derived Brahmaji's benediction in a roundabout way, almost equal to becoming an immortal being. Hiranyakashipu was sure that he would not be killed by any man or demigod or by any kind of known weapon, nor would he die in day or night. The Lord, however, assumed the incarnation of half man and half lion, which was beyond the imagination of a materialistic demon like Hiranyakashipu, and thus, keeping pace with the benediction of Brahmaji, the Lord killed him. He killed him on his lap, so that he was killed neither on the land nor on the water nor in the sky. The demon was pierced by Nrsinga's nails, which were beyond the human weapons imaginable by Hiranyakashipu. The literal meaning of Hiranyakashipu is one who is after gold and soft bedding, the ultimate aim of all materialistic men. Such demonic men who have no relationship with God gradually become puffed up by material acquisitions and begin to challenge the authority of the Supreme Lord and torture those who are devotees of the Lord. Prahlad Maharaj happened to be the son of Hiranyakashipu, and because the boy was a great devotee, his father tortured him to the best of his ability. In this extreme situation, the Lord assumed the incarnation of Nrsingadev, and just to finish the enemy of the demigods, the Lord killed Hiranyakashipu in a manner beyond the demon's imagination. Materialistic plans of godless demons are always frustrated by the all-powerful Lord. Oma Gyanat and Ranasya Gyananchima Shalakaya Chakshur Onuritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. So, he killed him for being a child abuser, and he killed him for being an enemy of the demigods. So, anyway, so I'm going to continue the idea, and I'll go to the 7th canto and read the, summaries. I don't have time to prepare any more than that anyway, so. But I think this is nice, these summaries. It's like having
That's what we've been doing anyway.
Yeah, I know. I'm
So it's
taking
nice.
that.
It's a nice thing.
Yeah, it's a nice idea. So it's like we're having a appearance day every day.
Index, right?
Huh? No, that's
because
chapter, canto 7.
in the other cantos later on, probably we put summaries to each chapter.
You didn't put in all the chapters, did he? You just later on, or?
Now, I don't know where it started, but it wasn't in the first 3.
So, is it 7, chapter 2?
I'm not sure if the editors did it, but anyway, it's nice.
Well, anyways, we got it. We know it's posted Prabhupada. Anyway, it's posted closer than I could probably get by sitting here talking about it. So,
Sure.
so this is chapter Canto 7, chapter 2, entitled Hiranyakashipu, King of the Demons. So, as described in this chapter, after the annihilation of Hiranyaksha's sons and his brother Hiranyakashipu were very much aggrieved. Hiranyakashipu reacted very sinfully by trying to diminish the religious activities of people in general. However, he's instructed his nephews throughout history just to diminish their aggrievement. He instructed true philosophy about the soul. I remember reading that. He instructed true philosophy about the soul, then turned around and tried to kill the personality of Godhead.
Yeah, actually, if you read that, it's after his brother dies, and he's consoling the mother and the co-wives, and it's really eloquent, preaching about how
You want me
not
to read that?
despised.
Or it's not really, it's not Nrsingadev.
No, but it's a Hiranyakashipu.
Mm-hmm.
He was not an ordinary demon.
Oh, read the summary.
Read the summary, yeah. Summary.
Read the summary,
Yeah.
okay. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared as the boar and killed Hiranyakashipu's brother Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu was very much aggrieved. In anger, he accused the Supreme Personality of Godhead of being partial to his devotees and derided the Lord's appearance as Varaha to kill his brother. He began to agitate all the demons and Rakshasas and disturb the ritualistic ceremonies of the peaceful sages and other inhabitants of earth. For want of the performance of yajna, sacrifice, the demigods began wandering unseen on earth. After finishing the ritualistic funeral ceremonies of his brother, Hiranyakashipu began speaking to his nephews, quoting from the Shastras about the truth of life. To pacify them, he spoke as follows: "My dear nephews, for heroes to die before the enemy is glorious. According to their different fruitive activities, living entities come together within this material world and are again separated by the laws of nature. We should always know, however, that the spirit soul, which is different from the body, is eternal, unadjustable, pure, all-pervading, and aware of everything. When bound by the material energy, the soul takes birth in higher or lower species of life according to varying association, and in this way receives various types of bodies in which you suffer or enjoy. One's affliction by the conditions of material existence is a cause of happiness and distress. There are no other causes, and one should not be aggrieved upon seeing the superficial actions of karma." It is telling the story. Hiranyakashipu then related a historical incident concerning a king Suryagya who resided in the country named Ushinara. When the king was killed, his queens, overwhelmed with grief, received instructions which Hiranyakashipu quoted to his nephews. Hiranyakashipu related an account of a Pulinga bird pierced with the arrow of a hunter while lamenting for his wife, who had also been shot by the same hunter. By narrating these stories, Hiranyakashipu pacified his nephews and other relatives and relieved them of lamentation. Thus, having been pacified, Diti and Rushabhanu, Hiranyakashipu's mother and sister-in-law, engaged their minds in spiritual understanding. There's a whole philosophy where you don't have God, but you have all these other truths. So I guess that was him. So, chapter 3, Hiranyakashipu's plan to become immortal. Summary is, this chapter describes how Hiranyakashipu performed a severe type of austerity for material benefit, thus causing great distress throughout the universe. Even Lord Brahma, the chief personality within this universe, became somewhat disturbed and personally went to see why Hiranyakashipu was engaged in such a severe austerity. Hiranyakashipu wanted to become immortal. He wanted not to be conquered by anyone, not to be attacked by old age and disease, and not to be harassed by any opponent. Thus he wanted to become the absolute ruler of the entire universe. With this desire, he entered the valley of Mandara mountain and began practicing a severe type of austerity and meditation. Seeing Hiranyakashipu engaged in this austerity, the demigods returned to their respective homes. But while Hiranyakashipu was thus engaged, a kind of fire began blazing from his head, disturbing the entire universe and its inhabitants, including the birds, beasts, and demigods. When all the higher and lower planets became too hot to live on, the demigods, being disturbed, left their abodes in the higher planets and went to see Lord Brahma, praying to him that he curtail this unnecessary heat. The demigods disclosed to Lord Brahma Hiranyakashipu's ambition to become immortal, overcoming his short duration of life, and to be master of all the planetary systems, even Dhruva-loka. Upon hearing about the purpose of Hiranyakashipu's austere meditation, Lord Brahma, accompanied by the great sage Bhrigu and great personalities like Daksha, went to see Hiranyakashipu. He then sprinkled water from his kamandalu, a type of water pot, upon Hiranyakashipu's head. Hiranyakashipu, the king of the Daityas, bowed down before Lord Brahma, the creator of this universe, offering respectful obeisances again and again and offering prayers. When Lord Brahma agreed to give the benedictions, he prayed not to be killed by any living entity, not to be killed in any place, covered or uncovered, not to die in the daytime or at night, not to be killed by any weapon on land or in the air, and not to be killed by any human being, animal, demigod, or any other entity, living or non-living. He further prayed for supremacy over the entire universe and requested the 8 yogic perfections such as Anima and Laghima. So, chapter 4 of the 7th canto, Hiranyakashipu terrorizes the universe. Summary. This chapter fully describes how Hiranyakashipu obtained power from Lord Brahma and misused it by harassing all the living entities within this universe. By severe austerities, Hiranyakashipu satisfied Lord Brahma and obtained the benedictions he desired. After he received these benedictions, his body, which had been almost entirely consumed, was revived with full beauty and a luster like gold. Nevertheless, he continued to be envious of Lord Vishnu, unable to forget Lord Vishnu's having killed his brother. Hiranyakashipu conquered everyone in the 10 directions and the 3 worlds, and brought all living entities, both demigods and asuras, under his control. Becoming the master of all places, including the residence of Indra, whom he had driven out, he began enjoying life in great luxury, and thus became mad. All the demigods but Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva came under his control and began serving him. But despite all his material power, he was dissatisfied because he was always puffed up, proud of transgressing the Vedic regulations. All the Brahmanas were dissatisfied with him, and they cursed him with determination. Eventually, all the living entities within the universe, represented by the demigods and sages, prayed to the Supreme Lord for relief from Hiranyakashipu's rule. Lord Vishnu informed the demigods that they and the other living entities would be saved from the fearful conditions created by Hiranyakashipu. Since Hiranyakashipu was the oppressor of all the demigods, the followers of the Vedas, the cows, the Brahmanas, and the religious saintly persons, and since he was envious of the Supreme Lord, he would naturally be killed very soon. Hiranyakashipu's last exploit would be to torment his own son Prahlad, who was a Madhava-priya, an exalted Vaishnava. Then his life would end. When the demigods were thus reassured by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everyone was satisfied, knowing that the miseries inflicted upon them by Hiranyakashipu would come to an end. Finally, Narada Muni describes the characteristics of Prahlad Maharaj, the son of Hiranyakashipu, and describes how his father envied his own qualified son. In this way, the chapter ends. In chapter 5, Prahlad Maharaj, the saintly son of Hiranyakashipu. Summary. Prahlad Maharaj did not carry out the orders of his teachers, for he was always engaged in worshipping Lord Vishnu. As described in this chapter, Hiranyakashipu tried to kill Prahlad Maharaj, even by having a snake bite him, and by putting him under the feet of elephants, yet he was unsuccessful. Hiranyakashipu's spiritual master, Shukracharya, was the same spiritual master as Bali Maharaj, had 2 sons named Shanda and Amarka, to whom Prahlad Maharaj was entrusted for education. Although his teachers tried to educate the boy, Prahlad, in politics, economics, and other material activities, he did not care for their instructions. Instead, he continued to be a pure devotee. Prahlad Maharaj never liked the idea of discriminating between one's friends and enemies. Because he was spiritually inclined, he was equal toward everyone. Once upon a time, Hiranyakashipu inquired from his son what the best thing was that he had learned from his teachers. Prahlad Maharaj replied that a man engrossed in the material consciousness of duality, thinking, "This is mine and that belongs to my enemy," should give up his household life and go to the forest to worship the Supreme Lord. When Hiranyakashipu heard from his son about devotional service, he decided that this small boy had been polluted by some friend in school. Thus he advised the teachers to take care of the boy so that he would not become a Krishna-conscious devotee. However, when the teachers inquired from Prahlad Maharaj why he was going against their teachings, Prahlad Maharaj taught the teachers that the mentality of ownership is false, and that he was therefore trying to become an unalloyed devotee of Lord Vishnu. The teachers, being very angry at this answer, chastised and threatened the boy with many fearful conditions. They taught him to the best of their ability and then brought him before his father. Hiranyakashipu affectionately took his son Prahlad on his lap and then inquired from him what the best thing was that he had learned from his teachers. As usual, Prahlad Maharaj began praising the 9 processes of devotional service, such as Shravanam and Kirtanam. Thus the king of the demons, Hiranyakashipu, being extremely angry, chastised the teachers, Shanda and Amarka. for having wrongly trained Prahlad Maharaj. The so-called teachers informed the king that Prahlad Maharaj was automatically a devotee and did not listen to their instructions. When they proved themselves innocent, Hiranyakashipu inquired from Prahlad where he had learned Vishnu Bhakti. Prahlad Maharaj replied that those who are attached to family life do not develop Krishna consciousness either personally or collectively. Instead, they suffer repeated birth and death in this material world and continue simply chewing the chewed. Prahlad explained that the duty of every man is to take shelter of a pure devotee and thus become eligible to understand Krishna consciousness. Enraged at this answer, Hiranyakashipu threw Prahlad Maharaj from his lap. Since Prahlad was so treacherous that he had become a devotee of Vishnu who had killed his uncle Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu asked his assistants to kill him. The assistants of Hiranyakashipu struck Prahlad with sharp weapons, threw him under the feet of elephants, subjected him to hellish conditions, threw him from the peak of a mountain, and tried to kill him in thousands of other ways, but they were unsuccessful. Hiranyakashipu therefore became increasingly afraid of his son Prahlad Maharaj and arrested him. The sons of Hiranyakashipu's spiritual master, Shukracharya, began teaching Prahlad in their own way, but Prahlad Maharaj did not accept their instructions. While the teachers were absent from the classroom, Prahlad Maharaj began to preach Krishna consciousness in the school. And by his instructions, all his class friends, the sons of the demons, became devotees like him. Chapter 6. Prahlad instructs his demoniac schoolmates. Summary. This chapter describes Prahlad Maharaj's instructions to his class friends. In speaking to his friends, who were all sons of demons, Prahlad Maharaj stressed that every living entity, especially in human society, must be interested in spiritual realization from the very beginning of life. When human beings are children, they should be taught that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the worshipable deity for everyone. One should not be very much interested in material enjoyment. Instead, one should be satisfied with whatever material profits are easily obtainable, and because the duration of one's life is very short, one should utilize every moment for spiritual advancement. One may wrongly think, in the beginning of our lives, let us enjoy material facilities, and in old age we may become Krishna conscious. Such materialistic thoughts are always useless, because in old age one cannot be trained in the spiritual way of life. Therefore, from the very beginning of life, one should engage in devotional service, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.23. This is the duty of all living entities. Material education is infected by the three modes of nature, but spiritual education, for which there is a great need in human society, is transcendental. Prahlad Maharaj disclosed the secret of how he had received instructions from Narada Muni. By accepting the lotus feet of Prahlad Maharaj, who is in the parampara succession, one will be able to understand the mode of spiritual life. In accepting this mode of activity, there's no need for material qualifications. After Prahlad Maharaj's class friends had listened to Prahlad Maharaj, they inquired how he had become so learned and advanced. In this way, the chapter ends. So we're on chapter 7, summary. Chapter 7 is what Prahlad learned in the womb. In this chapter, to dissipate the doubts of his class friends, the sons of the demons, Prahlad Maharaj states how, within the womb of his mother, he had heard from the mouth of Narada Muni, who had instructed him in Bhagavad Dharma. When Hiranyakashipu left his kingdom and went to the mountain known as Mandarachala to execute severe austerities, all the demons scattered. Hiranyakashipu's wife, Kayadu, was pregnant at that time, and the demigods, mistakenly thinking that she carried another demon in her womb, arrested her. Their plan was as soon as the child took birth, they would kill him. While they were taking Kayadu to the heavenly planets, they met Narada Muni, who stopped them from taking her away and took her to his ashram until Hiranyakashipu's return. In Narada Muni's ashram, Kayadu prayed for the protection of the baby in the womb, and Narada Muni reassured her and gave her instructions on spiritual knowledge. Taking advantage of those instructions, Prahlad Maharaj, though a small baby within the womb, listened very carefully. The spirit soul is always apart from the material body. There's no change in the spiritual form of the living entity. Any person above the bodily conception of life is pure and can receive transcendental knowledge. This transcendental knowledge is devotional service, and Prahlad Maharaj, while living in the womb of his mother, received instructions in devotional service from Narada Muni. Any person engaged in the service of the Lord through the instructions of a bona fide spiritual master, is immediately liberated. And being free from the clutches of Maya, he is relieved of all ignorance and material desires. The duty of everyone is to take shelter of the Supreme Lord, and thus become free from all material desires. Regardless of the material condition in which one is situated, one can achieve his perfection. Devotional service is not dependent on the material activities of austerity, penance, mystic yoga, or piety. Even without such assets, one can achieve devotional service through the mercy of a pure devotee. Now we're on chapter 8, Lord Nrsimhadev slays the king of the demons. Summary. As described in this chapter, Hiranyakashipu was ready to kill his own son Prahlad Maharaj, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared in front of the demon as Sri Nrikeshari, half lion and half man, and killed him. Following the instructions of Prahlad Maharaj, all the sons of the demons became attached to Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When this attachment became pronounced, their teachers, Chanda and Amarka, were very much afraid that the boys would become more and more devoted to the Lord. In helpless condition, they approached Hiranyakashipu and described in detail the effect of Prahlad's preaching. After hearing all this, Hiranyakashipu decided to kill his son Prahlad. Hiranyakashipu was so angry that Prahlad Maharaj fell down at his feet and said many things just to pacify him, but he was unsuccessful in satisfying his demoniac father. Hiranyakashipu, as a typical demon, began to advertise himself as being greater than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but Prahlad Maharaj challenged him, saying that Hiranyakashipu was not God, and began to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, declaring that the Lord is all-pervading, that everything is under him, and that no one is equal to or greater than him. Thus he requested his father to be submissive to the omnipotent Supreme Lord. The more Prahlad Maharaj glorified the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the more angry and agitated the demon became. Hiranyakashipu asked his Vaishnava son whether his God existed within the columns of the palace, and Prahlad Maharaj immediately accepted that since the Lord is present everywhere, he was also present within the columns. When Hiranyakashipu heard this philosophy from his young son, he derided the boy's statement as just the talk of a child, and forcefully struck the pillar with his fist. As soon as Hiranyakashipu struck the column, there issued forth a tumultuous sound. At first, Hiranyakashipu, the king of the demons, could not see anything but the pillar. But to substantiate Prahlad's statements, the Lord came out of the pillar in his wonderful incarnation as Narasimha, half lion and half man. Hiranyakashipu could immediately understand that the extraordinarily wonderful form of the Lord was surely meant for his death. Thus he prepared to fight with the form of half lion and half man. The Lord performed his pastimes by fighting with the demon for some time, and in the evening, on the border between day and night, the Lord captured the demon, threw him on his lap, and killed him by piercing his abdomen with his nails. The Lord not only killed Hiranyakashipu, the king of the demons, but also killed many of his followers. When there was no one else to fight, the Lord, roaring with anger, sat down on Hiranyakashipu's throne. The entire universe was thus relieved of the rule of Hiranyakashipu, and everyone was jubilant in transcendental bliss. Then all the demigods headed by Lord Brahma approached the Lord. These included the great saintly persons, the Pitas, the Siddhas, the Vidyadharas, the Nagas, the Manus, the Prajapatis, the Gandharvas, the Charanas, the Yakshas, the Kimpurushas, the Vaitalikas, the Kinnaras, and also many other varieties of beings in human form. All of them stood not far from the Supreme Personality of Godhead and began offering their prayers unto the Lord, whose spiritual effulgence was brilliant as he sat on the throne.
So that, you see there, it says that it mentions Kimpurushas, Vajadaras, and it's in human forms. There's the list of the 400,000 species that we wonder about.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some different species here on this planet, but there's a whole list of...
Yeah, the start gives you an idea. So there's actually at least 2 more chapters. Should I continue? What time is it? I can't see it.
8:30.
It's 8:30. Well, okay. So then they were all afraid, and they all offered prayers, but they were all afraid to come close. And they sent Prahlad forward to pacify him, and Prahlad was not afraid, so Prahlad pacified him. And that's a summary of the summary.
Well, the thing is that he performed these austerities for 100 years.
Hiranyakashipu.
Right. And he got the benefit of it for 5. Not a good return.
That's a little upside down, isn't it?
Yeah,
Not a good return.
that's true.
Yeah.
All that austerity for 5 years.
Good.
I hope you enjoyed those 5 years.
Part of it.
The story of his preaching to pacify his relatives was this story he told. This king had 3 wives, and he was killed on the battlefield, and they were there they were there breathing over him and bewailing their situation. And maybe it was Yamaraj, came in the form of a little Brahmana boy. And I made a drawing from this, so I know the story, I studied it. So I made a drawing. So I said that each of you has her own death right nearby. You don't see that. You just see his death, you don't see yours. So I made a drawing showing the death figure behind each of the wives, and another death figure pulling away the spirit of this king who was laying there dead. So that is pretty interesting story.
Where is that picture?
In my personal, maybe I should put it online.
Why don't you bring it out and show the people?
It's about this big. It's just a drawing.
You can take a picture of
But
it.
you're hoarding it.
Yeah.
Brown's supposed to share.
It's hard to figure out the way to do that because everybody's scattered around here.
No, that means like say when we have the festival.
Yeah.
Something-
I brought it out in the festival, but offered to sing up. Yeah. Well, what I could do, I could ask you to post it, and it will be online. I don't ever think about that. I could post my latest pictures. I have some pictures not done because I start them and I paint them in oil or acrylic or something, and they're long down because it takes too long. So I got, this picture is ink and watercolor, so it's fast. So that's how I should always work, but then I always try these big things.
But it sounds like an interesting concept. You're seeing a person sitting and then behind. That's.
Yeah. Do you do Facebook?
No, I don't.
Okay, so you won't see it. I'll have to try to remember doing it. Or I could.
The only way sometimes what happens is, and I don't even look at my emails that much, but when I do, I'll notice that so-and-so wants to be your friend on Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
And so then I can click on it, and then I get access to see what's on their Facebook page. And now there's like groups,
Oh, yeah, I got some groups.
these group things.
Yeah.
There's even a group from the town I grew up in.
Just because it's the town?
Well, there's a lot, yeah. And then they show you pictures from different, places that are like the Little Red Store. Everybody knows the Little Red Store, You got it, so they show that picture, and then, this other place that used to be called the West Side Stop, or it was actually a second Nathan's before Nathan's became a chain. And so they show you these pictures, and then, and I don't know what they do. I don't get it. I don't get Facebook. It's just like, to me, it's just like, what?
Yeah.
What is it? It's like,
Entertainment mostly, but.
It can be used for good.
Entertainment.
It can be used for good, and it can be used for otherwise.
I've seen devotees who have, like, Vaiseshika and other people, like I've seen Vidayananda, he's giving classes, things like that,
So it's for good.
That's, Otherwise, like I saw one of my brothers, and here I am eating in a restaurant. Here I am, I'm on a plane.
The lines of Krishna, Krishna, and more Krishna.
Here I am on a ferry boat.
I have some friends, certain devotee friends. I don't know, I think they live in Australia or somewhere or something, but they're always posting cool stuff. So that's the reason I
Leela did
I
that.
look at that.
And I can't see Leela's anymore for some reason, but because I'm not in the Facebook, but you know, but because you get an initial like introductory offer and then somehow it fades away. But she, Leela Avatar, she would post some really interesting things. I found them interesting anyway, most of them.
For a long time, I didn't know what's Facebook anyway. Everybody talks about it, but because I started one, but I didn't do it right, and it was stationary. It didn't do anything. And so I said, "What's everybody talking about?" And they said, "It's a news feed." You write down. I said, "What are you talking about?" And I couldn't understand it. But then I signed up right, and now I see what it is. You know, you just by looking at it. But
Looks like it's just like too much work for me.
I watched a documentary about an experiment that was done by Facebook on the members in Facebook.
Hare Krishna.
Well,
Carry on, we gotta get ready.
And they put a false idea out, and they wanted to see how far it would propagate. It was hundreds of thousands of people.
you can turn that up.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Jai Shri
turn it on,
Prabhupada,
turn it on,
Jai.